Hero Complex by Tygermine. Read by LMX Mabella. Chapter 3. We should have a research montage. Charlie had no idea how popular he actually was with the wizarding elite. And by that, he meant a certain demographic amongst them, being witches of a certain age with a lot of money. His list of patrons read like the who's who of wizarding society. He had been receiving flu calls from not only England, but as far away as New Zealand and Singapore. He had just finished a call with the Pachapon province of Bangkok when Hermione walked into the Menagerie. A familiar white feline had stuck out at the top of her handbag. Charlie raised his eyebrows as Hermione placed her handbag on the table and the cat wandered out, trying not to catch its cone on anything. "Ignore him," she said to Charlie. "How's it going with the fundraising?" "I think my salary reflects how underappreciated I am around here," he teased and handed her a donation list. Hermione's eyes grew wide as she read the list. "How is this even possible?" "Weasley charm, of course." "Charlie, this is enough to reopen the department and keep our doors open for at least 2 years. You're a bloody legend. Have you booked the venue yet?" Charlie's smirk dropped slightly. "Venue?" "For the fundraiser." "Oh, right. On top of it, yep." "And all the rest, caterers, band, raffle prices." "All arranged. Not a thing to worry about." Good. I have some errands to run today. Can you cover everything?" Hermione absently looked around the office before grabbing her handbag. "Yes, everything is totally under control. Off you go." Charlie basically shooed her out the door, then turned to find the white cat sitting on his desk. "Don't look at me like that. Everything is totally under control." If cats could snort derisively, it would have done exactly that. Instead, it came out like a choked sneeze. "Shut up," Charlie snapped, and got back to work, making a list of venues to book. Hermione shouldn't have been surprised that the Wigglebush file had mysteriously disappeared from the Aura's archives. The leading Aura on the investigation had also not been available, having won a large inheritance and was spending it off on the Amalfi Coast. The healer that confirmed the cause of death had succumbed to a heart attack a few months ago. It seemed anyone connected to Wigglebush had met some unfortunate end. Except Bingley. But there was no proof. Just hearsay and rumors, which Hermione couldn't use against her. With this dead end, Hermione headed back to the Menagerie. She felt slightly bad offloading the fundraising onto Charlie and decided she should pull her weight and help. When she walked through the flue into the Menagerie, the white cat leaped off the table and skidded to a stop at her feet. It meowed, looking up at her, as if to whine about how she dared to leave him alone with Charlie. "He's quite helpful," said Charlie, standing up from the table and stretching his back. "Only you'd find a cat helpful." She stepped around the feline and headed to the kitchen to turn on the kettle. "Get all your errands done, then." Charlie scooped up the cat and cuddled it. The cat went limp, resigning itself to its fate in Charlie's arms. "In a way. How are we doing with the fundraiser?" She pulled down 2 mugs and dropped a tea bag in each one. "Swimmingly." Charlie lowered the cat to the floor and joined Hermione at the kitchen counter. "I'm sorry I haven't been around to help." She bit her lip, urging the kettle to boil faster. Charlie shrugged, pouring some milk into his mug. "I'm sure whatever has you running around is just as important. My dad flew earlier. I think something is wrong at the office. He just asked how we were doing, and then I think someone walked into his office because he just ended the call. Usually he'll talk for ages." Hermione heard the kettle pop off, and she poured the water into the mugs. "That does sound odd." Inside she was giddy. The Department of Muggle Affairs seemed to be the obvious next target for Bingley. She wanted to abandon her tea and rush to the Ministry, but she felt obligated to stick around and pretend life was normal. Only Malfoy was missing. Harry was scared. Arthur was nervous. Life wasn't normal, and she had to fix it. She forced herself to sit down with Charlie and go through the preparations for the fundraiser. They chose the entertainment for the night, the menu, and swapped ideas on raffle prices. The white cat had settled itself on her lap, its head poking over the edge of the table, looking like a tulip thanks to the cone. "I swear that cat actually understands what we're talking about," Charlie pointed out. Hermione shrugged. "Now, remember, we can't see the Thai ambassador and his wife close to any of the delegates from Africa. The wife is still on their shit list for the blackface incident last Halloween. She also pissed off the Japanese princess. Maybe put them at a table with the Canadian ambassador Marianne Combs. She will diplomatically educate them about racism. By the time Hermione got home, white cat in tow, she was exhausted. The newspaper clippings littering her kitchen table seemed like a silent accusation that she was procrastinating and had a murder to solve, a megalomaniac to dispose, and an ex-boyfriend to find. Sodding Malfoy, getting himself mixed up in all this and possibly ending up on the wrong end of a Nevada. It was as if he felt he always had something to prove. She'd warned him against joining the Aurors. It would just be asking for troubles. He was safer running the family business. He was good at it. Malfoy had learned to read people, figure out their motives, and use it to his advantage. That wasn't a reason to run off and become a spy. He's such an idiot, she muttered. She was going to find him, and if he wasn't dead, she was going to kill him herself. The next morning was a Saturday, and instead of enjoying a lie-in with some fried eggs and toast for breakfast, Hermione gasped awake. Her heart was pounding, and her hair was damp with sweat. She scrambled out of bed, dislodging the cat where it had curled up by her feet, and ran into the kitchen. With the wave of her wand, she began laying out the newspaper clippings in the air to form a sort of murder board that hovered over the table. The cat padded in after her, meowing. "What does one need to commit a murder?" the cat meowed. "Exactly. Motives, means, and opportunity. So how did Bingley kill Wigglebush? Why did she kill him? Where can I find proof?" By now the cat had launched itself onto the table via a chair and was pawing at the various pages floating above it. "Stop that! We need to think! What would Bingley have gained from murdering her uncle? What has it got to do with her crusade to close the Department of Magical Creatures? Who can I ask without ending up dead?" The cat meowed and pawed at an article. "What? Will you stop that? I'm trying to figure this out." The cat repeated his pawing and meowing. Hermione took a closer look at the article. It was a brief write-up of Bingley being promoted to a diplomatic role for the Ministry, and that she was being seconded to the Ministry branch in South Africa. She glanced down at the cat. "That's not very helpful. What's her posting got to do with killing her uncle?" Hermione needed more facts. Ones that she won't find in the press. She had to start shaking some trees and examining what fell down. But who do I start with? The cat almost looked offended and shook its head at her. It jumped off the table, heedless of the wrappings on its hind leg or the quone around its neck, and headed into her living room. On the shelf of a sagging bookcase, hidden amongst the stacks of books, was a frame containing a photo she didn't look at often. The cat sat in front of the bookcase and meowed. Hermione ignored him, staring at the murder board instead, willing it to cough up an answer with the power of her mind. The cat continued to meow, trying to get her attention. Finally, it clumsily climbed the bookcase and pushed the photo frame to the ground. The shattering of glass pulled Hermione into the living room. "Why?" she asked it, kneeling down to clean up the debris. The cat intervened, meowing frantically. "What is your problem?" The cat nudged her cheek with its cone. Its silvery eyes wide. Silver eyes. Similar silver eyes looked at her from their photo as she smiled widely under the summer sun. White blonde hair that matched the color of the fur on the cat in front of her. Malfoy? Thank you for listening to today's chapter of Hero Complex by Tygermine, read by Ella. If you would like to stay up to date on upcoming chapters, you can follow me on YouTube, Spotify, AO3, Instagram, or Tumblr. Thank you all for listening.